You do?
Yeah.
I'm Kari.
Well,
Oh, well, it's nice to meet you. What's your name?
Ryan.
Ryan, nice to meet you. You're probably meeting with Paul then, maybe Lisa.
Yeah, I think that's pretty sure it's Paul.
Pretty sure, probably, yeah. He's doing the bulk of the interviews for Portland right now. So, well, I'm glad to hear that. And it's nice to meet you, and hopefully we're going to have to work together too. So, how did you find out about LaunchCode? Out of curiosity.
It was, okay, so WorkSource Oregon put me in a grant with a thing called Reboot.
Yeah.
And Reboot directed me to LaunchCode.
Nice. Good. Awesome. I don't know who you're working there with. I my contact at Work Systems, and I know he's got like a whole group of people who are nice. That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to the interview.
It'll be fun. Paul's really chill. Like, he'll be really honest with you about like where you're at, which is part of what I'll talk about today. But he's just a super chill guy. Like, I just really appreciate his energy. It's a nice interview.
So we're on this.
Cool.
Let me introduce you real quick.
Sweet. Thank you.
You pronounce it.
It's actually Fass, since we're asking. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure because
It's German. It's, you know.
You know what? It sounds cool. I like it. All right, everybody, we're gonna get the tech talk started. This is Kari Fass. She's from LaunchCode, which is a nonprofit that places people into junior development positions. So you should all really listen and pay attention. It's gonna be awesome. And I'll let her get going since I'm gonna get going.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I am very glad to be here with all of you today. Thank you so much for having me in. I realized a few minutes ago that I'm meeting you all like halfway through your workday, halfway through your meal. So I'll try and keep the energy up. Please ask questions as we go. Basically, I want to introduce myself. I want to tell you a little bit about what I've learned throughout my career journey. And I want to make sure that when you walk away from today, you also have a sense of who LaunchCode is. And what it is that we do and how we can be a part of your career journey. So basically, again, my name is Kari Fass. I'm the company relations manager for LaunchCode here in Portland. And I'm also a career changer, much like many of you. I worked in higher education for about 13 years as a university administrator. I also worked as an academic success and career coach with college students. So I've spent a lot of time not only working on my own career as a career changer, but then also talking with other folks about their journeys and how they're pivoting and the decisions that they're making and how they want to make the most of whatever it is that they're studying or the different experiences that they're having. So I, for one, moved to Portland about 5 years ago. Got here, was working, was very happy, was falling more and more and more in love with this city. And realized that staying in Portland was kind of what I wanted to do long term. That was my long-term plan. And realized that the people who worked in higher education in town were really happy doing what they did. There wasn't a whole lot of changeover. There wasn't a whole lot of new jobs being created. So I and kind of dig up some curiosity of my own to get a sense of what else is out there and how can I transfer the skills that I have into a new industry. And so that's kind of where I started. And I started exploring tech and saying, what jobs are out there that would be a good fit with my interests, my passions, the skills that I have, and just started really kind of getting to know what was out there, what possibilities existed, because it wasn't something that I had considered before. I did take Pascal many years ago when I was in high school, right? I did do that, but at the time, going into tech was something that my older brother did. That guy was a coder from 8 years old, playing with his Texas Instruments, going to like hacker meetups and stuff with my dad. Like, that was his show. And I was like, that's not a place for me. Like, I don't want to do that. I didn't know, and I think many people didn't know at the time, what tech was ultimately going to look like and how there was going to be spaces for so many different types of work within the technology industry. And so I'm really glad that in the last few years I put that energy in and I pivoted. When I moved out of higher education, I became a technical recruiter for a staffing agency in Portland. I then moved over and worked with a corporate recruiting team here in town as well, so representing one company instead of many companies in any given week. And now I'm with LaunchCode, and I'm really excited. We are just getting started in Portland. We've been in St. Louis, Kansas City, South Florida, and Rhode Island for a number of years, and this year we're inaugurating our offices in Portland and Seattle. Our primary goal as an organization is to create additional pathways for folks of all kinds of different backgrounds to get into the tech industry. So rather than just having one route in, that is, you're 18 years old, getting out of high school, going out and getting a CS degree, then getting your entry-level position, then doing this, then doing that, then doing that. But rather to find multiple entry points for folks to really be able to get engaged with the tech industry and with the employers that are out there who have great work and a lot of vacant positions to fill. So much like what you all are doing here, much like what Tech Academy is working on, that's our aim. My role specifically is to work with the companies involved. So I'm going out and I'm kind of doing some of that initial digging and saying who's got jobs, who wants to give folks a chance, what type of technology are you working with, and how can I introduce you to some people who fit that bill. So we want to make sure that the pairings are solid and strong. So I'll dig more into a little bit into the history of LaunchCode a little bit later. But what I want to start with today is talking a little bit about the 3 ways that you can improve your job search. 3 ways that you can be a stronger candidate because you're here, you're building tech skills, you're learning knowledge and approaches that maybe you didn't have a few months ago, right? And if you had them before, you're working on making them you're building them to be stronger, and you're kind of expanding that toolbox of skills. So these are the 3 things that I want to start talking about today. The first one is having a personal message and a personal vision. Give me raise your hand or yell hey if you feel like you can succinctly right now say why you decided to get involved in Tech Academy. Couple of hands. Okay. So that's something. This is a big key, having a personal message and a mission. Mission sounds kind of hoity-toity. Mission sounds maybe
corporate.
Sounds very corporate, right? Like maybe you're digging a little bit deeper. But you gotta have a why. Why are you here? Why are you bothering to try? Because y'all are putting in a lot of effort and a lot of time into making this happen. So have a why. Have an explanation as to what brought you into wanting to code. What makes you curious about technology. Another example might be what kinds of projects light you up. And it might even be projects that you don't currently work on. You might be encountering projects that you're reading about in the newspaper or in a magazine, and you're saying, I think that's really interesting. That is 100% a justifiable you want to get into tech because you think that work is interesting. For me, my why for getting into tech was I want to help other people reach their potential. That doesn't sound very technology driven, does it? Like that's a why that I could use in higher education, in life coaching, like I was doing. That's a universal why. But as I got closer and closer to understanding the tech industry, I was then able to pull on different strings to be able to tell that story a little bit differently. When I moved from, this is a little bit, obviously this is a personal example. It's a little bit of an example. When I moved from working at the staffing agency where I might represent 5 or 6 companies in a week to working for one company, that was part of my why. I want to help people reach their maximum potential. And I feel like working at one company to do that will give me a chance to represent that culture and help people get even closer to the specific job that they want. Again, nuanced, kind of specific to the work I do, but if you can approach your work that way and talk about the projects and programs and things that you're interested in, the better off you'll be in conversations with folks. Have you all done, I should have asked Nate this earlier, but have you all done a technical interview at this stage of the game? Is that something that you've tried? Awesome. Okay, so you do get a chance to practice that here. So that's something that you can expect when you go into job interviews, is to do the technical interviews where they give you a problem, they ask you to solve it, or they ask you to map out how you would solve it or what resources you would use when you were approaching that technical problem. The other thing that you can expect are kind of more behavioral questions. So that's folks getting to know you, getting to know what kind of employee you might be, getting to know kind of how you're going to perform on the job and how you're going to approach the work. So that's why having a personal message and a personal mission can be really important, because that's kind of your place to start and to be able to pivot out from that and have those conversations. So the next big thing that I think is really important is being able to identify stories to back up that personal message and that personal mission. How many folks in the room, give me a raise of hands, is this your first job after Tech Academy will be your first tech job? Okay, so lots of hands in the room. Lots of folks who are going to be looking to identify stories of transferable skills. Is that like, okay, I'm getting nods, cool. So you're gonna want to come in prepared with those stories in your head, and this is gonna sound cheesy, kind of in your heart too, because it's not about memorizing the answer. Here's the script, here is the answer that I prepared to say to you in my interview, right? But rather to be able to tell that story about a time that you did something that really relates. So I really encourage you to spend some time writing down, just keeping a list. Even if it's just a bullet point list in a Google Doc someplace of like wins that you've had at other jobs, successes. Maybe you're working on a project here and you're like, how did I figure out how to do that so well? I really did well at that project. Like, what did I do previously in my life that made me really successful here? So grab that, pull on it, and kind of tease it apart to figure out how that fits in to where you're going. Know how to speak to your weaknesses also. I know there's the generic question of like, what are your weaknesses? But also, if you're telling a story and you realize that in the practice of sharing that anecdote, maybe that's not your favorite story about yourself. Maybe you did 4 out of 5 things that were really awesome there, but maybe there was one aspect of that experience that you kind of wish, I could have handled it a little bit differently. Then be ready to say something along the lines of, and what I learned from that experience is that next time I would blah, 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 blah. So really be able to be prepared with those stories. And I bring all of this up because building an authentic network is a really big part of finding jobs that are good for you. It's not just, I mean, there's a component of like, I need a job. People assume that when you apply for jobs, it's because you need a job. So you want to find the job that is the right fit for you, that is the thing that is going to tie well with your passions, your projects, the employers that are going to make you happy in the long run, a place that you're going to want to stick around and stay for a reasonable amount of time. And what that reasonable amount of time is going to vary from person to person, but you want to be ready to do that. So I bring all of these things up because I do think that having your network ready is a career-long sort of thing. Give me a hand or a hey if you feel like in a previous career you had an established network. Okay. Yeah, that's how I felt. There's a couple of heads in the room that are like, yeah, and I walked away from it. And that's how I felt too. I felt like, oh man, I just gave up all of this work in higher education. I know this, I know this, I know that person. I went to that conference. I did these things. All that work is going down the toilet. You might be surprised how it's not, but it's going to be up to you to do a little bit of extra connecting the dots for yourself and figuring out who knows who. And that's why this, again, kind of cheesy, but the authentic network, like the genuine stuff, becomes important. Because it's not just collecting events and kind of filing them away. It's about having real conversations with people and being able to connect with people on a genuine level. So that's knowing kind of who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, being able to have stories to talk about helps you to build this real network so that you're not just ahhing when you're talking with folks, but you can really kind of start someplace and find out the folks that you have things in common with or projects that you're super excited about. Who can tell me at least one digital method that we use for building networks?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Meetups. What else?
GitHub.
GitHub. Facebook can be. Stack Overflow. Great. What's that? CodePen. There's lots of different ways to do this. It's not just going to stiff networking meetings where you're shaking hands and then trying to find the next person to talk to. There's lots of ways to do that. Hackathons are great. All the different sorts of events that you can go to where you have something to do together, especially if you're a person who's not excited to be going out and just like talking to strangers. I would encourage you to find those opportunities where you can do something with other people, and that will continue to build your network. And the nice thing is, and I know we've got a lot of remote folks on the line too, but in Portland, you're going to find that those dots start connecting to one another. And you're going to find out that that person that you were on a project with at that hackathon is actually really good friends with the person who leads such and such meetup. And that they're going to make an introduction to you to somebody that comes to that meetup as a mentor. Maybe that mentor is the person who's going to help you build a specific skill set. It really does kind of start to map itself together. As a recruiter, I love LinkedIn because it does all the mapping for me. But I also, so my partner is an engineer, he hates LinkedIn. He hates it. He's like, oh, don't make me update it. And I'm like, I was on there the other day and I noticed that you're not connected with so-and-so. He's like, you're a really good friend, But that's the reality of things, is that we're all going to choose different tools because you want to be doing the stuff that feels good to make job searching not just feel like a buzzkill. Because quite frankly, it can be. It's not it's not always easy. You're not going to get the first job that you apply to. So find ways to make it fun and make it fit in with who you are as opposed to just being treacherous. Okay, so trying to think. I know people have food and stuff. I was going to get people up and move around. Do you all object to getting up and moving around for a couple of minutes?
You're going to make me stand?
I'm going to make you stand up!
I won't stand for this.
I will not! It's not going to happen! Okay, so what I want to do is I want to think about this on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. How many stars would you give yourself in each of these categories? So we're going to make this room a spectrum from this wall over here to this pillar here, kind of where this presentation space ends, right? And so if you think that you are a 5 on having a personal message and mission, I want you to kind of stand over here. And you can stay in the rows that you're in if that's easier for you. If you're a 5, you're someplace over here. If you are a 1, you're someplace over here. Just on the first category. Go!
But there's only 5 and 1, right? There's no spectrum.
Oh, there's a spectrum. Yes, you can have 3 stars. Absolutely. Cool. Yeah, that's about middle. Yeah, so I would say somewhere in this here is 3 stars, 4, 5, 2, 1, that sort of thing. Okay, so this group feels pretty good about knowing your why for the most part. Now for the folks who are at either end of the spectrum, say hello to the people at the other end of the spectrum, because those are some of your resources and opportunities to either give back or to ask some really good questions of folks who feel confident in that area. And they might be able to tell you how they came up with their why or why they bothered to come up with their why, right? Okay, next one. Identifying stories to back it up. Go ahead and reshuffle. Put yourself in your other locations. And if you're still in the same spot, that's okay. You're allowed. Can I get 2 people to share why they're standing where they're standing, regardless of where you are?
I feel like I'm a 2 because I'm pretty good at answering questions when they ask them here. You're not exactly prepared for that. But I don't feel like I'm very good at making the skills apparent. And so it's hard for me to find stories that connect with transferable skills. So I don't feel although I answer the question sufficiently in the interview, I don't know if I'm really strengthening my interview with the way that I answer that question.
So you kind of want to polish those up.
Right.
It's I got the rough draft. I'd like for this to be stronger so that people walk away from the interview going, yeah, that guy. Okay, awesome. One other person share why you're standing, regardless of where you're standing.
I think I've had a lot of job skills and stories that I've built, and from when I started my career, I've always kind of figured out a place to solve problems, and that's kind of why I wanted to get into tech and jump to the next level. Is I've always worked with transportation and any type of those issues, so I have a lot of stories to build off with many different companies and results, positive and negative.
Yeah, right, and those are good ones to have, absolutely. So you feel like there's a framework to hang your tech answers off of. Cool. Sometimes that comes very organically for folks. If I was moving into a coding position right now, honestly, I would have a heck of a time trying to build that framework, and I would need to put some extra effort in there to do that, versus it sounds like your roles, yeah, there's a lot of similarities there. Let me just hook these pieces together. Cool. Okay, last category. Building an authentic network. How established do you think your network is, or you might think of that as how good am I at establishing it?
Well, that changes everything. Is it how established is it, or how good am I at establishing?
Okay, we can break it into two. Let's say how established it is first. Okay, everybody's over here. You went even further that way for those of you online. You went even further towards the one. Great. How about if we flip the question around and we say, how prepared do you feel to establish your network? Totally fair. I want to hear from two people on, like, if you could pick one thing that you would want to improve on in this area, what's that one thing? Like, if you get one question answered, or one piece of insight, or just one piece that would make you feel better about building your network. Having a subject, so like an excuse to talk to them?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have sent cold emails to I don't know how many companies this week of people I don't know. And having a reason makes me feel a lot better. So I'm with you. That's really good. And that's a skill that you can build as you go. Absolutely. Okay, what's somebody else's, like, one thing? If I could have this one thing, I would feel better. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think in the first couple of weeks of being on a course like this, where you need to tech, you haven't really developed a lot of the vocabulary with the So I'm not yet to the point where I'm comfortable networking with tech people, can say, because I'm not to the point where I'm comfortable talking about tech and then put up with it. So once that happens, we'll be able to do it.
Sounds like that'll automatically move you closer to the 5. Like, maybe 1 star, maybe 2 stars up, but...
Being able to have a conversation.
Vocabulary helps.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to speak for either one of you who just spoke individually, but for a lot of people, that comes down to feeling like you have credibility in a conversation. Is that, yeah? So yeah, it's being able to feel like this person I'm engaging with feels good talking to me. Again, those are things that you can build on. So in the meantime, I'll let you sit down with your pizza and your soda and whatever else you got. Pieces. I'm going to ask you to pick one. Like, if you think about how a company grows, every quarter they don't say, we're going to do all the things better. Go! They focus on other things that they do to kind of move the overall company success needle the most, what's going to have the most impact. So I want you to think about these 3 categories and pick one right now just to yourself that you're like, yeah, if I could be better at that, I'd feel a lot better. Everybody got one? Okay. If you've got something to type on or write on or whatever, I encourage you to take a look at it. Otherwise, I'll send the slides to Nathan later and you can share them with y'all. But first question to ask yourself is, what do you already know about or prepared in that particular area? So it might be like, I already know that I should know my why. I don't know my why, but I know I should know my why. That's a completely legitimate answer to this question. I'd encourage you to sit down and kind of list out what are your strengths in that area that you've got going for you. Because I promise you that even those of you who are like hugging this 1-star wall all the way over here, you've got something that you know that's happening already. So that's one piece of that. List out your strengths and what you got going for you. What do you not know you want to? Kind of like what we did with the last category. What's the one thing that would make you feel better? Would make you feel stronger? Would make you feel more confident to engage in those conversations? Because having interviewed a lot of people in my time, both in higher education and then mock interviews and coaching, and then actual interviews in tech recruiting, man, that confidence will get you a long way. It really will. It might not get you the job, but even really skilled, smart folks who are having a hard time getting their stories out, that's a rougher interview. But even if you end up, turns out that you're not qualified for the job, or they find somebody like better, or whatever, you get through that interview and just feel good about it and have like a nice conversation, you're making a positive impression, and that's building your network. So if you can build that confidence up by pulling one lever in any of these categories, you can help yourself. And then what resources do you have to improve this area? So like I said, the 1s and the 5s in each of those categories, This is your opportunity to go grab coffee over lunch sometime and talk about that. Even if you're a 2 and a 4, so maybe between the 2s and the 4s, you can figure out some of the things. Maybe the questions that somebody who gave themselves 2 stars had is going to help that 4-star person get themselves to the 5-star category. That is totally so resources. It might be people. It might be online tools. It might be organizations that you want to go to. It might be classes that you need to take. Like if you feel like, let's say you wanted to be like a professional services engineer. That's like your long-term goal is to be kind of in the sales side of the house, is to be going out and visiting clients. Like that's probably not going to be your first gig right now. But maybe that's where you see yourself in the long term. And you know the skills stink. You might choose to go out and do a class of public speaking right now so that you can work on your poise and your skills. I know you got a lot on your plate. I'm not saying that's the answer. But if that is something that means something to you, think about it. What are the other ways that you can approach that? Yeah, networks, networking events, meetups, all the stuff that we talked about earlier. One of my favorite speakers is a gal called Lisa Nichols. She's a life coach, motivational speaker type. And I got to see her speak years ago in Portland. And one of the things that she said is, y'all are so busy trying not to fall off the cliff that you won't step off the curb. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's me. Like, I was so scared I wouldn't, like, apply for a job. I wouldn't do it. And the cool thing is that if you're here and you're already in classes, you've already stepped off. You've already taken the first terrifying step. The next steps get less and less terrifying because you've done this one, and you're just kind of, like, building up those bravery points to move into the next thing. But I do keep taking steps. It's not just saying, like, okay, I finished my classes, I'm ready, and then waiting for something to show up. Like, you gotta keep taking the steps. And I know that that can be frustrating because I've done it in the last 5 years, but it's really important, and eventually it definitely pays off. Let's see. So, I want to tell you a little bit more about LaunchCode, which is who I work for right now. So this is our goal. We're a 501c3, we're a nonprofit. Our aim is to provide free services to our candidates. Our employers work with us with a little bit of compensation when somebody converts to a full-time role. But other than that, we're mostly out there just trying to create the opportunities and make it an easier step for folks to move into their next position. I think this is pretty cool. A couple of months ago, Vice President Joe Biden came to our St. Louis office. We have a video that I won't bore you with just watching a video right now, but it's on Vimeo. You can look it up under LaunchCode. We got a number of profiles on there, candidates and employers that we've worked with, and a really lovely piece from Vice President Biden talking about what we've done and how we're making a difference. We've moved about, that automatically. We've placed about 500 in the last few years into apprenticeships. Our year is to be 480 by the end of 2017. So we're trying to move pretty quickly. Like I said, we're in 6 cities right now. So we want to cross the 1,000 by December. So it's a tall order, but we're excited about it. We feel really good about our screening process. One of the interesting things is that when you interview with LaunchCode, you will get feedback, which is not something that employers always offer. Some employers do, some employers don't. I'm assuming that you guys do that sort of thing here, but sometimes it's nice to get another perspective or be like, okay, I got that feedback from the folks at Tech Academy, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to use it, and somebody else is going to give me feedback, and I'm going to see if I raise the needle on that, right? So that's the nice thing, is that you'll get that opportunity. You will do technical interviewing, you will do some soft skill interviewing, and then at that point we'll decide whether or not you're receiving feedback to improve on maybe a project that you're working on, maybe it's on your soft skills, that sort of thing, or if we're immediately going to start looking for a placement for you. Our apprenticeships are typically 90 days is what I'm aiming for when I talk with employers. When we ask them to always make sure that they have a headcount reserved to convert somebody to full-time. So it's not a guarantee of a full-time job, but it's giving our apprentices 90 days to show their stuff, show them what you're made of, and know that there can be a job at the end of that 90 days. Right now, nationally, we've got about 4 out of every 5 apprentices will convert to full-time positions. So we're working really hard to make sure that those pairings are successful. They candidates are stepping into positions that they can be successful in and that employers are going to be excited about. And we're also making sure that we're giving you the right information to prepare for that interview and for that apprenticeship. So this is a little bit of information, the application, the interview, the matching, and the placement. And I just kind of talked about and a few of our partners. We have MasterCard, we've got Boeing, we've got a number of people nationally. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll be able to give you some really good answers about Portland employers. So this is a little bit more about the testing and vetting process. There's a hacker rank coding test. We'll evaluate logic and method skills. And then you also have a project review. So that's something that we really value, is that when you go into an interview, you've got some things that you can talk about. And that's having kind of a primary project that you're really proud of. But if you've got other projects that you're curious about and you want to talk about, we want you to be prepared to talk about those too. And that might be in different technical stacks. It might be in the same technical stack. But the idea is that when you go into that interview, you've got things to share. You've got more stories to present to the employer. So that's kind of our aim. A little bit more, like I said, 485 placements, 4 out of 5 convert to full-time. 30% of our apprentices who go full-time are then promoted within 18 months, which is another stat that we're really proud of, that the folks are getting into the right place so that they do advance. It's not just your first job, it's your second job as well. That said, that's a little bit about LaunchCode. I'm open to do Q&A. Yeah? Absolutely. Yeah, and here I'll flip back.
What's the best way to reach you?
LinkedIn is a great way to keep tabs on one another. To be honest, I don't do the evaluation process. We have technical folks who do all of the evaluations, and they're looking at your soft and your technical skills at the same time, as opposed to like, they do the technical and I do the soft skills. It's all rolled into one. So the best way to be in touch with LaunchCode is to go ahead and apply for apprenticeship online. It's just launchcode.org. That's the best way to be in touch with us as an organization, but I will happily take your LinkedIn requests, and my phone number is on my email, so if you drop me on LinkedIn,
Does it help you if we refer you during the application process?
either way is totally fine. That's, I mean, when you work with staffing agencies in your career, they will want you to really very much do that, but at LaunchCode, we're not super territorial. We're all working together to reach one mission, so yeah, totally tell them, like, I heard Kari speak at the tech.
So your apprenticeship, is that, do you know if it's paid?
Thank you. I skipped over that. It is paid. So our apprentices are paid $15 an hour. So it is a thank you for your time. It is recognition of the hard work and the skills. And we standardize that across all of our clients so that no matter what apprenticeship you're placed into, you're getting the same rate. And then when you convert to full-time, assuming that you do, then you get to have, you as the employee get to have that negotiation about what your full-time compensation would be.
Do you guys accept apprenticeships for people that
That would be, that's a good question. That would be harder for us because we're going out and finding apprenticeships with employers and asking them to make sure that there's a full-time headcount at the end. That said, if we've got an opportunity that we know isn't going to go full-time and we've got a candidate who we know doesn't want to go full-time, then that's something that we can match with. Because to be honest with you, as much as we're focused on these 6 primary cities, every once in a while we'll get a call from somebody in another state, and we'll get a call from a candidate who is willing to move, or whatever the unique circumstances are. And if we can play matchmaker and help people get